absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference.
67% of this country believes this trial is politically motivated, and 56% of the country believes Biden had something to do with it. What are we doing all this for when the Biden DOJ themselves said, hey, there's nothing here. There's no federal violation. FEC officials also said no violation here. It's a federal crime.
I think the idea of threatening President Trump with jail time, it's meant to be that kind of chilling effect on his speech. But, President Trump is not going to listen to that. I think he's willing to take the judge to the mat and say, okay, throw me behind bars. And if the left think that's going to be what's going to lose the election for Trump, I think that would fire people up even more.
All right. I hope you had a great weekend. I did. It was a little gray and overcasty here, but, got a lot done. Well, some done. Shouldn't say a lot. It's all relative, isn't it? But just when I was ready to talk about what a great weekend President Trump had with the panel today, and he did, he had a great weekend. All the VP candidates are down in Palm Beach having this big VP audition in front of the RNC donor retreat. We kick off this morning, and Judge Marchand says he's going to fine him again, another $1,000 for violating the gag order, and then says it's obvious that this isn't a deterrent. I may put you in jail. That literally is what he said. Jail options. I just can't believe we're literally getting here on a trial that makes no sense, on a gag order that makes no sense, and then potentially putting the guy in jail. This is unbelievable. I'm going to talk to the panel about this in just a bit. Plus, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's meeting with Speaker Johnson probably right now. The big question is, will she or won't she pull the trigger? Trump team not happy with Marjorie Taylor Greene. They want less chaos. They want more focus as we head into the election. So FYI, that's kind of where we are right now. Anyway, a lot to break down. We've got a great panel today. Hogan Gidley is back with us. He is a member of the vice chair of the America First Policy Institute election task force. He is also a former deputy press secretary of President Trump, served as national spokesman on the campaign. And then Patrice Onwuka, she is the co-host of O'Connor and Company here at WMAL in our nation's capital, and the economic policy director for the Independent Women's Forum. It's Monday. Gosh, I got to get straight. Before we get to them, though, Patrice and Hogan, I do want to tell you about two of the amazing sponsors that we have that help keep the show free across all platforms when you subscribe. Let's hear from them and then get it together with Hogan and Patrice. All right. If you've been keeping up with the political news, you know that there's been a lot of discussion about animal welfare. How about we put it that way? Well, the beautiful thing is there's always a solution. My friend Leo Grillo founded Delta Rescue. Delta Rescue is a no-kill animal sanctuary. Notice I didn't say shelter. It's a sanctuary. It's a place where dogs, horses, cats, you name it, can go and get the care that they need. Maybe it's nutrition. Maybe it's veterinary care. It doesn't matter. Leo Grillo takes them all in, and he makes sure that all animals get the care that they need for life. For life. That's what Delta Rescue is all about. And if you go to deltarescue.org, you can see the amazing work that Leo does. Now, Delta Rescue relies entirely on contributions from animal lovers, people who claim that they want to help rescue animals and care for them. This is where you can put your money. This is where you can put your money because he takes care of those animals for life. But they rely totally on our contributions, $100, $1,000, $50, whatever you can do. Help them out. Help keep that mission going. But if you want to do even more and make it part of your legacy, make sure that Delta Rescue is an enduring mission, then check out the estate planning kit on deltarescue.org and see if you could make Delta Rescue part of your estate so that what Leo Grillo has founded will live in perpetuity. Go to deltarescue.org and check it out. Thank you. There's always an occasion coming up that you're looking for a gift. Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, 4th of July. I don't really care. But you know what is when you have that special, meaningful gift? So here's what I did. I took a picture of me. I can lend you this one, or you might have one of your own. And you can get it made into an unbelievably meaningful painting. Completely unique. No one's going to have something like this. And you can have it made into whatever you want. Oil, acrylic, charcoal, you name it. You get to pick the frame. You get to pick the artist. And the artist will send you videos of them working on it once you choose them. You get to approve it all, 100% guaranteed. And if you text Spicer to 87204, the folks at Paint Your Life will give you 20% off and free shipping. The process could not be easier. It just takes a few minutes when you they'll send you a link. You go on it, you choose all the different options and upload the photo, and you go from there. Trust me, it is the most unique and meaningful gift that you will ever give somebody. So text Spicer to 87204. Remember that message and data rates do apply when you do this. Enjoy. Well, happy Monday to you guys. You know, I was ready to go with a whole start about what a great weekend the president had. We're going to get into that. But Hogan, right off the bat, the judge, Marchand in New York there, takes it up a notch and is threatening Trump now with jail time. Here's the thing. Like a lot of threats, if you don't follow through with them, they fall flat. And I actually have always thought that this would never happen, that he'd keep finding the guy. We're now like at a detente because I feel like you don't want to dare Trump. But on the other hand, Judge Marchand wouldn't have said what he said about jailing Trump if he didn't have some intent to potentially do it.
Yeah, I think that's right. He said, look, don't talk outside the scope of this case. And he did. He talked about it publicly, and the judge slapped him with a fine. Look, the whole thing is ridiculous. I think many people, even on liberal news networks now, are kind of coming to the conclusion, wait a minute, there's still no crime alleged here. And that's a little confusing. What are we doing all this for when the Biden DOJ themselves said, hey, there's nothing here. There's no federal violation. FEC officials also said no violation here. It's a federal crime. Why is it in state court? All the things we can talk about that kind of show the ridiculousness of this, they're all put to the side or to the back burner because the judge has now become such a topic of conversation. What he is doing, what he isn't doing, what he's allowing, what he's not allowing. And those are the things I think the American people, while they're not really paying attention to this now, they'll pay attention to a verdict, of course. But on the periphery, you're hearing the judge won't let him go see Barron's graduation. You're like, what? The judge slaps a gag order fine on him on Trump for talking. Those are things people are seeing and hearing about. I just don't think a lot of people in this country are too concerned or care about where this case is right now.
Patrice, I get everything that Hogan said. I agree with it. But here's the thing. This morning, Judge Marchand tacks on another $1,000 and says, it's clear that this is not a deterrent, right? Well, I mean, $1,000 to a billionaire is not a deterrent. But he specifically then references, I think I have this, it appears that $1,000 fines are not serving as a deterrent. Going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sanction. So he's the one, I mean, I think that to Hogan's point, yeah, people aren't paying attention, but you put a former president in jail on contempt, regardless of what it's for, you're going to DEFCON 1.
Well, listen, this may be the best shot for the judge and a lot of people who want to see President Trump behind bars actually see him, wear a jumpsuit. I actually see this as a totally political move. I mean, I think the idea of threatening President Trump with jail time, it's meant to be that kind of chilling effect on his speech. But, President Trump is not going to listen to that. I think he's willing to take the judge to the mat and say, okay, throw me behind bars. And if the left think that's going to be what's going to lose the election for Trump, I think that would fire people up even more because they're absolutely seeing how many people who've been arrested should be behind bars for actual criminal offenses and are roaming the streets freely now. And the former president of the United States, we don't even know what he's really been charged with, is behind bars. I think that would be dangerous.
Okay, listen, I don't know. I guess I thought I was going to get a very different reaction from both of you, especially you, Hogan Gidley. I'm a little disappointed how much you know him and what you see. I agree with everything. We're not in disagreement on the fact that this is a ridiculous charge that he's sitting in courtroom. And then furthermore, that you're gag ordering the defendant, which is not the point of a gag order. I get the ridiculousness of this on so many levels is there. 100%. We're all on the same page. I just cannot believe that the prospect of putting the current frontrunner for president of the United States behind bars. I mean, first of all, politically speaking, I think that this would just be a gift. But Hogan, Donald Trump, the idea of them saying, okay, we're going to take you and bring you to Rikers. I don't care how nice you make the cell. This is a guy who doesn't like spending the night in anywhere but his own hotels. It's disgusting at any level. And I get what we're trying to talk around the edges here about whether or not it's ridiculous or not. I'm talking about, can you imagine Donald Trump, the man, being told you're going to spend one night in Rikers, no matter how clean and disinfected they make it all? Like, to me, this is a mind-blowing idea that you've taken a ridiculous case, you've gag ordered the case, and then you're threatening to put the current frontrunner for president of the United States and former president behind bars. I can't fathom what's about to happen.
Yeah, but the question, I guess, becomes, since we're all on the same page here, and you're disappointed in me, Sean, you know how badly that pains me. But you're asking if he's actually going to do it, I guess, is the real crux of your question. If he's actually going to put him in jail. I'll tell you this. From everything we know about the judge to this point, with his compromising position, having donated to Biden, obviously his daughter, a PR executive making millions of dollars on behalf of Adam Schiff and others, pushing out emails centered around this very topic of Trump being in jail, I'm sure he's the toast of the town.
Yes.
I'm sure the cocktail parties love having him around. And so for him, he's in that silo and in that vacuum. And I'm sure he thinks what I'm doing is right, not because of the law. The hell with the law. It's because I get the accolades and I get the praise because I'll be the first person to send Donald Trump to jail. That would be the only motivating factor.
Oh my God, he'll get them. Biden will give him the Medal of Freedom.
Of course.
You're going to become the new Michael Avenatti. They'll talk about him running for president.
But the fact we're having the conversation is just disgusting. And it's such an indictment on the legal system, the judicial process, as it relates to someone who disagrees with you politically. This is how it's going to go down. I'm telling you, if I was a Republican attorney or I had control over Republican attorneys, I'd have a whole group of those folks ready to go, whether it be on documents, whether it be on, this gag order stuff in court cases that relates to payments to other people. I would have them ready, loaded up to say, all right, no immunity. Good. We're coming after you, Obama. We're coming after you, Clinton. No statute of limitations. We're taking you all on. I'd be ready.
But okay. So let me just bottom line this to you, Patrice. Mershon brought this up, and I don't think that he would have brought it up if he wasn't willing to and I'm being metaphorical, to pull the trigger. I mean, this guy's about to send him to jail, and I think Hogan is right that he's doing it because he wants to be the hero. I'm going to be the guy that put Trump behind bars. Everyone keeps saying that he's going to get off. Well, guess what? He spent a night in Rikers because of me, 2 nights in Rikers, whatever it is. I'm the guy who put him in the jumpsuit. Forget the mugshot. Here you go, Georgia. I'm going to one-up you. Patrice, do you think that he actually sentences him to a night in jail for contempt?
Part of me said, 95% of me says yes. 5% of me says at the last minute, he's going to say, you know what, this is probably a bad idea. Maybe somebody will get in his ear and say, you know what, the short-term bump is not going to be worth the long-term bite. And so
What's the fight? What's the fight, though? He orders him to jail. He goes. This isn't he says, I'm holding you in contempt. Yeah. You're spending the night. Your bail's revoked. I mean, to me, this isn't I'm not a lawyer, but I understand. My understanding is he goes.
Well, I think that the judge would probably draw it out. This is the first threat that he's making. President Trump maybe speaks again, tweets or posts something on Truth Social again, and then he says, "You know what? You're getting on my nerves. You have one more shot." And then, I think at that point, that's when I don't think the judge would do it. I don't think the judge would do it.
Hogan, does he pull it? Does it trigger?
Again, I'm kind of there. I think he wouldn't make the threat if he didn't want to follow through with it, because if he makes the threat and doesn't, then he's not as popular at those cocktail parties we were just talking about. But it's hard. I don't know how you throw a former president that's got Secret Service and everything else in jail. I don't even know how that this. So
I don't either. But this
is weird too.
House
I'm with you.
Is that what he would maybe do in lieu of actual jail?
I don't know, but he's the one who brought. I mean, he says going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sanction. I don't. Maybe he confines him or something, but I think that there's 2 scenarios here. One is Trump's attorneys say to him, hey, he's serious. I don't think that works with Trump. And second is the judge says, Hogan's laughing because I'm right. I think that makes it worse. You walk in and go, you do it one more time, you're going to jail. He goes, all right, let's do it. I don't think
He went above 50% in national popularity for the first time pretty much ever after the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Okay. So people see that and they don't like it. 67% of this country believes this trial is politically motivated, and 56% of the country believes Biden had something to do with it. So I'm telling you, we all on our side of the aisle go, oh, we're going to say this is just a weaponization and targeting three-letter agencies going after Republicans, et cetera. And the left is saying, oh, no, but the public is going to reject somebody who's convicted or who goes to jail, et cetera. Maybe. But the point is,
I guess what I'm trying
Americans right now believe it's political, and they believe Joe Biden's pulling the trigger and the strings. And so I don't know how it shakes out.
So the thing is, you're talking about how it shakes out, and I agree with you. I think that would benefit him because it would be a boomerang effect of being like, wow, you guys went too far. You wouldn't have been convicted. This is on the gag order, not actually a conviction. But I actually am just trying to think of the man himself. Donald Trump is not a guy, as I said, who likes to spend the night anywhere but his home or a hotel he owns. And suddenly you're going to be sleeping in Rikers. And I don't think they have a VIP section in Rikers. And that's what I really, it's one thing for him to reap the political benefits. It's another thing to say, we're going off to this gross, musty, disgusting place where you're going to spend the night.
Has Trump org tried to buy Rikers recently? You might want to check on the filing because they may buy it and then make the whole thing into like a luxury suite. And then
everybody wants to go.
Whatever.
That's it. Rikers Island. Everybody. Yeah.
It's the most beautiful island.
Yeah.
The most beautiful jail.
Right. Now you get points if you stay there and you get a round of golf. All right. Let's move on because let's kind of go to the positive for a second. He did have, up until this ruling this morning, I was planning on having a big discussion about what a great weekend he has. He flies back to Palm Beach. They've got the RNC spring donor meeting down there. It basically becomes an audition for all these VP folks. Let me ask you, do you think based on what you heard coming out of there, anybody did themselves some favors or hurt themselves, Hogan?
Look, I think the cake is kind of baked in Trump's mind. I don't mean he's decided yet. I mean, he's got his own criteria of who this pick should be. I have about 4 or 5 criteria that I think would be beneficial to him, beneficial for the country, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily the same ones that he, thinks are important for his pick. Not to mention the fact, whoever it is, if that person is not like a Governor Engler or a Governor Huckabee, Mike Huckabee, for example, someone who has no interest in being president, then the stories from day one will be Donald Trump has given this person the inside track, not for the next 4, but for the next 12 to be the next president of the United States, should he go on to be elected, of course. So I don't know how that plays in his mind either. The calculus is there of, do you want someone to push the MAGA agenda forward, the America First policies, to solidify that as the new Republican Party? Or do you want someone young? Can they go in and speak in these rural communities and talk to soccer moms and families and humanize Donald Trump and humanize the ticket, talk about them? I don't know what he's looking for, but there are plenty of folks who are at that Mar-a-Lago event who have that capability. I'm thankful that we're on our side with the potential deep bench we have versus Kamala Harris and what the liberal left has to work with.
It's funny you bring that up. I feel like you're absolutely right. We have this deep bench for VP, and you saw a lot of them on the stage. They don't even have a bench to be president. I mean, it's like Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or whatever, all the retreads, but they don't, like, we have a deeper bench to be vice president. Patrice, same question to you. Do you think that anybody did themselves some favors this weekend, or maybe the opposite, based on the reporting that came out of the weekend?
I think Tim Scott certainly did himself a favor. He's demonstrated that he can bring, South Carolina is probably not a huge worry of a state, but he balances the ticket in terms of evangelicals. He certainly came out in support of Trump pretty early on, and throwing his weight behind his President Trump. So demonstrating that loyalty that from what I understand, Hogan, you probably know better, but the loyalty seems to be very important to the president. Now we know demographics, Republicans don't play the demographics game, but he is a Black man, and he certainly is an ardent supporter, champion of a lot of conservative values, both economic as well as social. And so I think he brings from what I've seen, he seemed to have done pretty well. We've seen him on stage with President Trump before in the past. He doesn't outshine President Trump, which I can also imagine is one of those important factors that the president is thinking about. It is President Trump's show. And also, a vice president needs to have good working relationships on the Hill to get advanced the policies that need to be enacted from the legislative standpoint. He's got those relationships, including on the left. Let's not forget he worked on prison reform, tried to get something passed, and Democrats were the one to stop it. So,
Yep.
I mean, my money is on him, frankly. If I don't bet, but if I did, that's where I would put my money. And then, secondly, probably Elise Stefanik. Certainly speaks to a lot of women. Was not a Trump supporter before, but has certainly jumped on board with the America First agenda. What she has done when it comes to higher education and those colleges has been fantastic and raised her public profile in a way that I think is important, but again, doesn't outshine the president. So those two, I think, are the standouts for me.
It's interesting. I actually think for a lot of the reasons that you enumerated, that Tim Scott would be really good, right? He speaks well to the evangelicals. He's got great relations on Capitol Hill. He's got an amazing disposition, a great story, and he plays that role really well. And that's something that I think, Hogan, you would agree with. Like he understands his role in a Trump world, which is you're there to amplify, not to sort of try to stand out, to take away. That being said, there were three people in my mind that I want you guys to just think about. Patrice mentioned one, Elise Stefanik. He called her out from the stage. He said, a lot of people, after the way that she handled the stuff with that hearing, have been saying that she'd be a VP. He also called out JD Vance for the opposite reasons. He made a point of saying that JD hadn't been with him, which I thought was interesting because, again, as Patrice pointed out, Patrice pointed out, Tim Scott wasn't with him. I don't think I'm a huge fan of JD, so I don't think that this was a bad thing, but I thought it was interesting that he acknowledged that. And then I thought that Doug Burgum really did himself some favors over the past 72 hours in terms of how he's carried himself out. What do you think about the three that I just mentioned?
They all have pros and they all have cons. That's pretty much the story with all of these potential picks. Listen, if there's one thing Donald Trump loves more than a day one supporter, someone who's been with him through thick and thin, it's a convert. If he can bring you to his side, right, then he touts that, something he was able to do. He would consistently point to journalists who didn't like him. And then they were in the room with him and say, now she loves me, Hogan. See, look how great. He likes to be able to do that because he likes making deals. He likes bringing people over to his way of thinking, and he's able to do that a lot. So someone like JD who wasn't with him, now he's with him. He likes that. I do think the pick, as it used to be kind of that conventional wisdom, it was about geography. You want a state you wouldn't normally win. I think everyone on this show understands that's not really the case because, Barack Obama wasn't going to lose Delaware. Okay. Joe Biden wasn't going to lose California. They want someone that kind of fills a void a box they don't check, for example. And so what Trump wants is someone, I think, who can go out and have conversations with rural Americans like he can, that doesn't take away from his luster, his shine, but that can make the case for him in places that typically don't listen to conservatives that much. And so that's, I think, a top criteria. And those folks check that box. I like Doug Burgum. I've talked to him several times. I don't know how high he is on the list compared to the other two. But look, there are people floating around all over the place, like Sarah Sanders, like Governor Noem, even though, the book launch, people have been saying different things about that. He does like people's ability to go out there and fight with the press, too. It's not just about being affable and kind and calm. It's fighting, being an attack dog on his behalf. He likes that, too. And so there are a lot of things to consider here with Donald Trump's pick, but I guarantee you from the list we've seen and it's been floated around and people that are around him and sneaking into Mar-a-Lago and sneaking away to having these conversations, it's going to be someone that when he picks it, I bet all of us go, okay, I see that.
When things go sideways, are you going to be prepared? Because I know I will. I've got the Patriot Power Generator 2000X here in my house. When something happens, when the power goes out, whether it's a week, a month, and it could be months. I mean, we know about natural disasters, but there's also a potential of the power grid getting hit. And when that happens, think about all the things that you power in your life. Phones, refrigerators, medical devices, computers, TVs, all of those things. The Patriot Power Generator 2000X will make sure that you are ready. Now, here's why I love it. I've had a generator in the past. We've lost power. If you know what I'm talking about, you know that you have to run to the gas station, fill the can, fill it up, every couple of hours. You've got to keep the generator outside because it's loud, it's noisy. You've got fumes from it, gas fumes, right? The Patriot Power Generator, none of that. It runs on a solar panel that comes free with it. The solar panel comes free with it, and you can then bring it inside. There's no fumes. There's no noise. It's completely portable. So if it's not you, maybe it's a friend, it's a family member that's in trouble. You pick it up, you carry it, you bring it wherever you are. I've had one. I brought it into my kitchen. I power all the stuff that I need. You can even power your refrigerator. That's the beautiful thing about this. If you're in the same boat, you want to be prepared. And trust me, you do, because you don't know when it's going to happen. Get the Patriot Power Generator like I did. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer, 4patriots.com/Spicer. Do you know what I thought was funny, though? And I tell people this. I gave a speech up on Capitol Hill on Friday, and I was telling people how when I became press secretary, there was no job interview. I had spent a lot of time around Trump. We had been flying around post-election, and he would tease me once in a while and say, I met with Joe Smith. They really want to be press secretary, Sean, or whatever. He'd throw a name out there. And I'd say, oh, well, good, Mr. President. Mr. Trump, you should pick the best person. And he was trying to get a rise out of me. And he would sometimes go back and forth with me about an interview that I had done. But that was his interview. There wasn't a sit down and let's talk about it. And I think that what the press is getting wrong is they keep asking, they ask Burgum this, they ask all the candidates over the weekend, what did you have a conversation? And they say no, and they can't understand that that's not how Trump does interviews. He doesn't sit down and say, let me ask you about your last job and the qualities that you found strong.
Yes.
His basically the back and forth that he has with you and the watching you, to your point about fighting on interviews and stuff, like he's doing an interview 24/7 on a lot of these folks.
Sure.
And Patrice, that's the thing, is that this isn't going to be I sat down and I had this. Yes, people will know because they maybe had to submit background forms, but the back and forth is all up in the head. And he's thinking to himself, I like that response. I didn't like that. Yeah. I tell people all the time, like there was no interview. I got a call on December 21st around 12:30, and the president said, put out the release. There was no interview. It happened.
Well,
and
to your point then, on Friday on WMAL, my show with where I co-host with Larry O'Connor,
let's be honest. No. You host it. He gets all the credit. I know how this works.
His name was the headliner. But
ridiculous.
We had Representative Byron Donalds on. Talk about a champion, a fighter in the media.
Yep.
He is probably on CNN and MSNBC, literally tearing them apart, their arguments apart. More than I think a lot of other folks on the short list. So, I would not count Representative Donalds out. I asked him.
Wait, can I just ask you this though? Okay, listen, this is a pet peeve of mine. Byron Donalds, Marco Rubio in particular, and then to some degree DeSantis, people always throw their names out. The Constitution is clear. You'll give up the 30 electoral votes. Trump's not stupid. Now, there was a story last week that said Marco Rubio is considering moving. I don't even know where. He doesn't have, where would he have? You'd have to have residency. You can't just do it. Dick Cheney, when he did it in 2000, he flew to Wyoming because he has property there and he was able to say, hey, I live here now. And the window to become a resident was like 30 days. Okay. You can't just do that. But my point is that we're parading these folks around as if it's a real possibility. Now, like I said, there is reporting that with Rubio, he's actually considered moving somewhere. He'd have to resign from the Senate. And then my thought, by the way, is, DeSantis would be able to appoint somebody. But if Byron Donalds were to do it, he'd have to resign from Congress before the Electoral College met. There'd be a 2-seat majority. I mean, I don't know. I feel like to some degree, either they've got a master plan or someone needs to hand them a copy of the Constitution.
Well, I mean, okay, so that's fair. We don't know about Representative Donalds. Maybe he's got some residency possibilities somewhere else. But, I think to the point of there are lots of things to look for. And if you're looking for somebody who's been an ardent vocal champion, someone who's willing to take those tough battles on, particularly in the media, you got someone there. And I think you do have a lot of options. I do think, though, Kristi Noem is out. I really do. I think the dog situation hurts her.
That dog won't hunt?
The dog is biting back at this point from the dead. So I would count her out. For your first question about who has probably not done themselves any favors lately.
Hogan, you brought up Kristi before, based on what Patrice just said. Do you agree that she's done?
No, because as you know, in Trump world, no one's ever really done. They kind of maybe be on the out for a day or two, maybe a week or two, and then it goes back to normal set. Look, it's going to be one of those things, as you said, Sean, where he just makes a decision and that's the decision. He's really good about kind of polling people around him and then incorporating that information that people close to him give him versus what he sees on TV versus news clips, et cetera, because he's a ravenous reader, as you know. And so he looks at these things, and it could be one of the biggest decisions he makes. Most of the time, no one really cares about the vice president. Everyone says that. Mike Huckabee used to say it's a job no one wants, but the job no one would turn down. But in this instance, because of where Joe Biden sits, and because of where Donald Trump sits, I think the VP is going to matter.
Yeah.
And making the VP an issue is going to be central to a lot of the Republican argument. No way Biden finishes a second term. No way.
Oh,
so this
100%
will see
agree.
Kamala Harris as the president of the United States in a second term should Joe Biden win re-election. So then the question becomes, who you got, Republicans?
Right.
Who you put up against Kamala Harris? That, to me, I think is going to play heavily into this.
So you just put your finger on something that I think I've been trying to suss out, and I think you just helped me do it. There's a term that's become used by a lot of pollsters called double haters, voters that don't like Trump and don't like Biden, and they're trying to figure out where they go. And I think a lot of pollsters are trying to figure out, do they go to a third party? But I think that what you just put your finger on is what's really going to happen, which is people are going to say, I don't like Biden. I don't even know who this person would be because it's probably a person, would say, but I like Harris. Or I don't like Trump, but I like his VP. And that's how they're going to fathom the idea of voting for a top of the ticket they may not like. And
Great
that's
point.
why I think you're right. These VPs will matter not because it's like it gives people an excuse, a proxy to vote for a candidate they may not like, but they can say, well, I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for fill in the blank, the VP candidate. And that's how I think a lot of voters will justify and break out of that, quote, double hater issue that they're facing right now. Patrice, let me ask you this, though. You brought up the dog thing. And I've said this all along, and I'm not picking on Kristi Noem. I've written a book. I know like the amount of time that goes through it and the number of people who read it and give you feedback. And that's the issue I have. Who thought? And what I keep hearing from the Noem interviews is, well, it was a working. And I'm like, I get it. Then add more context. Explain why you did this for people who don't get it or don't get you or don't live in rural areas of the country. I'm not saying that it's unsympathetic to say the dog was maybe aggressive or violent and you had to do something. But then explain that. And she doesn't do it in the book. And she leaves readers wondering about her judgment. But the thing that blows my mind is now you have this issue with her retracting a meeting that she had with Kim Jong-un, which now she's admitting that it didn't happen. But instead of taking responsibility for it, she's blaming the ghostwriter, which makes it even worse. Because I'm like, so wait a second. Now it's the ghostwriter's book that you just happen to voice over?
Well, let's just back up to the dog. How she initially she was wearing it as a badge of honor because it was a way to popularize the book and make it public and make it very interesting. And then late last week we heard from her, well, this was actually a sign of how a person who has to make tough decisions approaches those very the judgment calls. I had to make a judgment call. It was tough. And this is how I'm going to bring that kind of judgment call or decision making to public office. And so trying to spin it away, which I don't think that was very, it was kind of disingenuous. So now we're understanding this meeting that did not happen with, a very important national foreign leader. It doesn't bode well for her. And I understand that when you have ghostwriters, they're probably going to embellish. But they're going to work from something that they've been given. And so the question is, what did you give them? Was it, I tried to set up a meeting? Well, why would you try to set up a meeting with Kim Jong-un? Why would you try to set up a meeting with him or whomever it was? And so, I see a lot of ways where she's starting to maybe the chinks in her armor are coming out. And it's not good, especially at a time when she's being considered for a vice presidential candidate. And you don't want these distractions to be what people remember if she is selected by President Trump.
Hogan, do you agree with that? I felt like, how do you mistake meeting with Kim Jong-un? This isn't like I get asked all the time, have you ever met so-and-so? And it's like, well, there's a large room. I can't remember if I actually met them. You would know as a member of Congress, because that she was saying, well, as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, I met many world leaders. I would remember, oh God, the guy that no one's met with. Yeah, I met with him.
Well, it's interesting because as this has become more public, this excerpts from the book, I've started to pay attention to kind of the media campaign around it. She was on CBS this morning, I believe. Did Margaret Brennan over the weekend, was on Hannity last week talking about some of these subject matters. And it's kind of fascinating to me because I actually enjoy hey, look, someone brought it to my attention. I took it out of the book. It's going to be done forever.
No.
Right?
Listen, wait. You and I have both, as spokespeople, gotten that. Hey, believe me, I'm well aware of having to revise and extend, if you will. There's a difference between that and here's my story. Like if someone said to me, hey, Sean, you said that you took this class. Like this isn't like a random recount. This is her retelling of her life and her experiences.
I understand that. And I've never written a book. I'm not as fancy as you, Sean. So you've written several. So
you're fancy. You just
have gone through this process many times. I don't know how it all works. What I did like was, though, she's like, look, it was brought to my attention. I got the book out. What's fascinating to me is people on the left don't say a word about Joe Biden saying he was in jail with Nelson Mandela or started the civil rights movement or his dad was a cannibal. Like, you're hammering me on something about a book that hadn't even come out yet. I took the name out. Big deal. Shut up. Let's talk about Joe Biden, who's actually president of the United States, who's been lying about his career for 25 years. I got done with this story in 24 hours, whatever. I think that's the best tack she can take. And as far as the dog's concerned, I think the context you just point out is so vital, which she asked Margaret Brennan, hey, look, you're a mother. What would you do if you had an aggressive dog that had come from another family? I had young children at the time. It had attacked and killed livestock, for heaven's sakes. And in South Dakota, we don't mess around with that.
But that's why what I'm saying is, I'm sympathetic to it. If I had young kids and I had to worry about that, I'd be like, hey, but my point is, it was this is her story. This isn't an opposition hit piece. And my point is if you're going to write a book and put something in there about that, then you explain the context and say, now, here's why I was worried. She didn't do that in the book. And even Margaret Brennan said, hey, why wouldn't you have added the context because she doesn't talk about her kids. She says, the dog almost bit me. Okay. But then when she starts retelling the story, she's saying, I was worried about my kids. I get that. I'm sympathetic to it. Then say it in the book.
Okay. But she's saying it now. Like, I don't, whatever. Like, Barack Obama famously in that one article said he ate dog growing up. So like, whatever. That's what I'm saying. Like the pearl clutching on stuff like this just blows my mind. I loved how Margaret Brennan was like, well, couldn't you take it to a shelter? She's like, no shelter takes a dog that's bitten several people and killed livestock. Like, what do you mean shelter?
No, right.
The lack of understanding of how things on a ranch work when you're talking about coastal elites in DC, New York, and LA blows my mind.
I'm with you, but that's
I'm with you too. I think she wore it as a badge of honor when it first came out. I would have just stuck with my guns then and just say, yes, I did it, and that's it. But I think we saw a little bit of kind of coaching. Oh, this is leadership, and that came across as disingenuous to me. I totally get it. I would pull out a gun and shoot somebody coming after my kids too. I think just stick with your guns on it.
Stay away from Patrice.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
No, but and again, I'll leave this because I want to get to one more thing. But I think we're all in violent agreement about this, and I think that to Hogan, to your point, that's what I think the beauty of the book was supposed to be, is to say, I want to explain to you the tough decisions in the life of rural Americans that you coastal elites don't get, and I think the opportunity was lost to tell the story and to explain to people why ranch life might be different and the challenges that they face, and saying, this is why I have to make certain decisions and bring you through that, because you're right. For a lot of people, they have no clue. And they're like, well, why didn't you just go down to the such and such and hand it off to the dog trainer? Well, that's not, but I'll let it. You
wanted more context in the book. I understand that. My whole point is it's just so rich to watch the left melt down
Yes.
about stuff like this when the border's wide open.
Oh,
We've got
no. I listen.
criminals roaming. Like, to me, it's just fascinating to watch Noem, someone who's well thought of in Republican circles, may or may not still be on the VP list, to go, look, to hell with you guys, right? Here's what I did. Here's why I did it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
There's a refreshing part of that to me where I'm like, okay, watching the left try and pick apart and parse every word, Sean, you've said in your past, every word I've said, Patrice, same thing. They come after us every day. I don't know. I kind of like, yeah, whatever. She took the name out, whatever.
I am with you. I love the fact that they give Biden a pass every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
And his dog has bit like 24 Secret Service agents.
And she brought that up. She brought that. And again, the funny thing is they attacked her. She brought it up because she said something like, Commander will go the way of cricket or something if he's still there. I think that, and you're right. Then they attacked her for that, which is ridiculous. But I get it. I'm not, and I do love the fact that the left, to your point, is so hypocritical on this. The one other thing that I wanted to get to today is, and just to be clear, there's supposed to be a meeting in a little while between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Speaker Johnson. Mm-hmm. I brought this up last week with the panel, but there's rumors that she will make a motion to vacate, make it privileged tonight, and pull the trigger, and then there'll be a vote on it. President Trump, from all the reports that I've gotten and that I've read, is pissed. He does not need more chaos right now. Mike Johnson was down at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. He wants to steer the ship calmly to November, get President Trump elected, and then start to enact the agenda. And Trump is not happy about what's going on. I asked this last week, but it's now gotten closer. I get that there's this meeting that's going to happen between Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hogan, or actually, Patrice, I'll start with you because Hogan went first last time and it's fair. Does she ultimately pull the trigger and make this a privilege motion and enforce a vote?
Yes. I think she is, she's sticking to her guns on this. And over the past few weeks, we've seen some of the folks who've been with removing Speaker Johnson in the past or former Speaker McCarthy have said, no, this is not a good idea. And I'm sure they've been talking to her behind the scenes, telling her it's not a good idea. And I do think, though, that she's still going to push forward with this because maybe she's trying to get some other concession and that just hasn't happened and it may not happen. And so she's willing to do this. I do think she will.
Hogan.
I think she does too. What's fascinating to me about MTG, and look, I know her, I talk to her sometimes when I see her. We don't have some kind of working relationship, but it is fascinating to me. Okay, fine. What's the plan? Who then are you going to put up? And I think that's kind of what's the why. There's so much like layered Washington here. Yes. Meaning I'm going to make the loud noises. I got no plan to fix it.
Yeah.
But there's also so much of DC where it's like, look, the political reality exists. We control one chamber. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the White House. What do you want me to do? Take a bill from the Senate where there are 10 things we hate and we get nothing? Or put forth a bill in the House where of the 10 things we got 2 we like that we can stomach? It's part of the process in DC that while many people lament it, it is ironclad in a way that is difficult to fix just with one person saying, I want to vacate the chair. I'm not saying one of the things I love so much about the McCarthy fight when we were trying to figure out who was going to be in that spot was this. It's always Republicans who at the very last minute, having done nothing for months and months and months, we get up to that cliff for the fiscal cliff. We're all going to fall over and the government's going to shut down. And Sean, better than most, they always blame us for it, regardless of whether we have a say-so or not. It's always the Freedom Caucus folks. It's always those hard right folks who have to flip at the end and go, all right, in the spirit of just keeping things open, we'll go ahead and do it. And they put provisions in there to say, all right, no, we got to check these boxes from now on. Right. Of course, the problem is I think they worked against having those boxes checked once they allowed him to be speaker so they could then vacate the chair. But that's neither here nor there. That's inside baseball. The American people don't care about this at all. They just don't.
Well, listen, we got to wrap, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I've been a yes for a while that she will. As of this morning, I'm flipping my vote. I'm saying that she will meet with Johnson. She will not pull the trigger because Trump has asked her not to do it. And I think she's going to say something to the effect of, I'm giving him a month to show blah, 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 blah. She's going to find a release valve and do that. That's all we got time for today. Hogan, Patrice, thanks for being with us, guys. Tomorrow, Victor Davis Hansen's going to join us. Kimberly Guilfoyle's on Friday. We've got a great discussion on what's really happening in the swamp on Wednesday. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this show. Brand new book that details what life in the swamp here in DC is really like and how it started. It is mind-boggling. Anyway, that's why you got to hit the notification button, subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for starting your week with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.